Hey everybody, welcome back to 5 Minute Financial Markets. Boy, do I like being right. If you watched my video on Wednesday or the video over the weekend, I talked about how the VIX had been selling off really hard, way oversold, and was definitely due for a bounce or a retrace back to the previous support right here at 22. That is exactly what happened today. Bounced back to 22. The RSI came out of this way oversold territory and bounced back up to around 40, just like we expected. Congratulations if you bought the VIX calls like I did. That was a nice little trade. So now we're kind of in this middle range without a clear direction. It could definitely continue running and go back and retest this channel that it's been trading in all year, or it could reverse and head back and retest the support line. At this point, I don't really have a view on it, so I closed out my VIX calls, took my profits, and I'm going to wait and see what happens next. Unfortunately, when the VIX goes up, that usually means the markets are going down, and that's exactly what happened today. Once again, looking at this upward trending channel that the SPY has been trading in ever since the bad CPI number on October 13th. It's been chopping higher, and today it broke below the midline of that channel. Now, it spent most of the time up in the top half of this parallel channel. Today is the first time since all the way back here on November 8th that it actually closed below that midline. So not a great signal in support of our bullish case. It's not the end of the world. As long as it stays in this upward trending channel, we can still see a bullish case for this and bullish momentum. It could get all the way down to 388, 390 around here and still be within this upward trending channel. If it breaks below that, then we've got to reconsider our bullish case. But obviously it's going to be better if it can rebound and get back into the top half of this channel, especially if we want to get to our target of 408 to 410 up here. Taking a look at the intraday chart, this is the 1 minute chart on the SPY. We opened here right around 400, traded up early to around 401 and then started selling off. Right around here, 720, that's when the news broke about BlockFi filing for bankruptcy, another casualty of the FTX meltdown. And then right around here, 9 o'clock, that's when we had two Fed presidents, Williams and Bullard, both giving speech. And you can see how volatility ensued. The market sold off, bought back, sold off again, and then from there just kept grinding lower throughout the day. Now, there's a few concepts that I've talked about on several previous videos that were all on display here. First of all, parallel channels. If you look at the intraday chart, especially the 1 minute chart, most of the time you will see parallel channels that the S&P is trading in and clearly respecting, and it was very clear here today. So disregarding the first hour of trading, because that's when retail traders are coming in, putting in their orders, doing God knows what. After that first hour, that's when the algorithms and professional traders start to take over and you start to see real clear patterns emerge. Now again, it's not every time, but I would say at least 60 to 70% of the time you can find parallel channels that the S&P is trading in throughout the day, and if you can find them early, you can trade around them. So here we've got this channel, we had a second channel for the bottom half, and then a third channel for that bottom quarter. And look at how many times these channels dictate price direction. So you can see support here, resistance here, support here, support here, support. Then we break through lower into this parallel channel, and it just chops back and forth between these two lines, breaks back up, resistance, resistance, support down here, breaks back into this lower channel. I mean, it's just over and over again. So again, if you can spot these parallel channels early, you can do a lot of low-risk, profitable trading around those. The second thing I've talked about a lot is these $5 price increments on the SPY. So you see the market broke up to 400 here, a little over 400, and then sold off. Sold off throughout the entire day, and where did it stop? 12 cents above 395, the next $5 increment. It's amazing how often that happens. Those $5 increments are really strong support and resistance levels for the SPY. The third thing I've talked about before, and actually I've talked about it in reverse, I've told you about how when the SPY just keeps grinding higher throughout the day with little higher highs over and over again, as opposed to a big move up and then a big move down and then sort of chopping in this range. When it does more like this, a high and then a slightly higher high and then a slightly higher high, and it just keeps making these very incremental higher highs throughout the day, it tends to continue that all the way to the close. So if you're patient, you can typically ride that all the way to the end, and you'll see it close at or near the high of the day. Well, the same thing works in reverse. So here we had an open here, a low of the day, a lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, and it just kept making these slightly lower lows throughout the day, and it continued all the way almost to the end. Right here, a little after 12:30 is where we actually found our real bottom of the day, again, right near this 395 level, and then we had a little bit of bullish activity heading into the close. But this is something you see over and over again. By this time here, you can recognize that it's doing this slightly lower low, and you can just ride that all the way into the close. Let's take a quick look at the dollar, which showed a lot of strength today, which makes a lot of sense when the market's selling off. we had this very strong candle closing near the high of the day, reversing this downward trend from the last several days. The dollar, I think, just doesn't really know what it wants to do right now. I could definitely see it rolling over and heading lower. I could also see it retesting this support level around 110. We'll have to wait and see on the dollar. But again, inversely correlated to most assets. So if the dollar moves up, markets, commodities, cryptocurrencies are probably heading lower and vice versa. Speaking of, let's take a look at silver. Silver selling off today with the stronger dollar, but unlike the S&P, staying in the top half of this parallel channel that it's been in going back to mid-August. So still looking good for silver. It gave back some of its recent gains, but no reason to think it won't keep churning higher. It could even break down to this lower half of the channel and still continue higher. I like precious metals going forward from here. Finally, let's take a quick look at the target rate probabilities for the December 14th Fed meeting. So current target rate for the Fed is 375 to 400 basis points, or 3.75% to 4%. The expected rate hike coming in December is another 50 basis points, 0.5%, to get up to this 425 to 450 range. And then the second most likely scenario is a 75 basis point hike, which is what they've done the last couple times. What's interesting here is that right now the 50 basis point hike is about a 2-to-1 favorite over the 75 basis point hike, which sounds great, right? Except that when you look back at what it has been, on Friday it was a 3-to-1 favorite, and a week ago it was a 4-to-1 favorite. So that means the odds of a 50 basis point hike are going down, the odds of a 75 basis point hike are going up, which is definitely not good for the market and counter to the pivot argument that a lot of traders, a lot of people in the markets are making now, that the Fed is close to stopping their rate hikes and possibly ready to start cutting rates sometime in 2023. A pivot sure would be nice for the markets. Historically, a pivot means that they switch from rate hikes to rate cuts, but this market is so desperate for the Fed to stop hiking rates that they're changing the definition of pivot. Pivot now means just slowing down the rate hikes or flattening out altogether. When the history books are written in this period, it is going to be interesting. That's all I've got for today. Good luck. See you soon.